Welcome back. You're watching The Facts. Muriel Duckworth turned 100 last week. She's been a pacifist her whole life. She celebrated with a birthday party and a concert. They were both all for her. Muriel's party happened at the Dalhousie Arts Centre on Sunday. Oxfam Canada is using the event to fund the Jack and Muriel Duckworth Fund for Active Global Research. But this was much more than a fundraiser.
Because what we're really doing today is celebrating the oldest active citizen I know who cares passionately about the planet, about the globe, has traveled all over the world, has stood up and spoken out for things that nobody else believed in at the time.
Many of the guests brought birthday cakes for Muriel and gifts for the fund. Some elementary students made cake too. The fund will support Oxfam's programs to end poverty and social injustice. For Gordon Earle, Muriel is one of a kind.
Well, as a politician, when you're out there working on issues that involve peace and you're struggling to put forth that concept, it's great to have a person in the back of your mind like Muriel Duckworth who exemplifies and lives that principle of peace.
The concert and birthday party drew a sellout crowd.
Let's talk about a different kind of activism. Everyone gets offended at different things. But does that mean you can't say or write something offensive? That was the topic at the annual Joseph House Symposium at King's this week. Margaret Wente was one of the main speakers, and Nick Logan was there.
Before she even spoke her first words, there was an uproar about Margaret Wente.
You're a racist! You've been called a racist Jews for years! Muslims, on Native peoples! More Margaret Wente!
I love Halifax.
She's written many controversial things over the years.
In my decade as a full-time columnist for the Globe, I've managed to offend such diverse groups as Muslims, creationists, feminists, Newfoundlanders, of course.
And the list goes on. But this is what she's been getting in trouble for lately.
And last week, as you've heard, I managed to offend thousands of people by suggesting that the hunter-gatherer cultures of North American Aboriginal peoples 400 years ago were perhaps not quite as sophisticated as, for example, the European Renaissance.
That didn't go over too well. Now, she might not have been right to print it, but she has the legal right to do it. She doesn't think a Human Rights Commission should be able to tell her what not to write.
You can't enjoy meaningful free speech when you're worried that the government is going to come after you.
She says people aren't looking at real problems.
When I think of human rights, as I often do, I tend to start with things like Nazi concentration camps, women being stoned to death by the Taliban, religious persecution. The right not to have your feelings hurt is pretty far down the list.
Not everyone agrees with her, but Wente says she tries to start meaningful debates.
I don't like debate to be obscured by, emotion, and people reacted so emotionally to that piece. Here's the thing about journalism, and especially about opinion writing, and that is that if you're doing your job properly, you're bound to give offense to someone.
Nick Logan for The Facts.
Wente's talk set the tone for another debate. A panel of journalists weighed in on the media's right to offend. Here's just a tiny bit of all they had to say.
We may agree on the very base fundamental issue of whether Human Rights Commission should have jurisdiction over publication.
I believe in some limits to speech, Official Secrets Act, copyright, fraud, forgery, death threats, obscenity, yeah. That's not what we're talking about here.
How are you going to use that freedom? You're going to use it any way you want? Say anything you like? Fine, that's possible. Be as offensive as you can, perfectly legal.
Our multicultural society is meant to provide a balance. I don't think journalists are even attempting to achieve that balance.
Right to offend? Absolutely.
Whether you're standing in front of your house on the sidewalk or whether you're writing on the editorial pages of the Globe and Mail, you don't necessarily have the right to that without consequences.
The Jazz Dance Studio at King's is celebrating its 20th anniversary. Kathryn Edgett is the studio's director. She credits the studio itself for her company's longevity. Perry has more on the story.
This studio is a blank canvas just waiting to be painted. For 13 years, the Jazz Dance Studio has been using King's gym to paint their masterpieces. The studio was created by this woman, Kathryn Edgett. Teaching jazz and tap since 1971, Kathryn fell in love with what this studio does for her.
The space is a very supportive space to work in. It's bright, it's big, it has great floors, it has good mirrors, it has, sometimes it's a little bit warm as tonight, but warm is good. Dancers like to be in the heat.
Edgett moved from the North Street Gym. She was drawn to a studio that she loved to use. Talking with Neil Hooper, Edgett had a connection with the gym's past.
It used to be a pool, so it's in that respect it is very unique. It also, I think, has its privacy, that there isn't other things going on in the facility.
She had taken her son to that same pool. She immediately said yes when she was offered the chance to move in. The King Studio is the proper setting for Edgett to perfect her technique and maintain a healthy lifestyle. Hooper loves to work with her.
She's a consummate professional. I would describe her as that. The big thing about Kathryn is she holds herself to an even higher standard than she holds others, which builds into this whole professionalism. She has the ability to just run one of the best dance programs that I've ever seen.
Her professionalism rubs off on Hooper and her students. Aged 7 to 55, they keep coming back for many reasons.
This studio is so beautiful because it's just so, as soon as you walk in, you feel open. So it's beautiful that way. You just already feel inviting when you come into it.
Edgett will celebrate 20 years by dancing with students who continue to inspire her. Dance on. For the facts, I'm Perry King.
Join our friends in the radio room Monday to Thursday at 5 p.m. on CKDU Radio, 88.1 FM.
In this week's issue of The Commoner, stories about international issues and how they affect us here in Halifax. The Commoner hits newsstands on Friday.
Don't forget about the online workshop. You can check out their work on unews.ca.
Coming up after the break, we'll meet some students who honor Holocaust victims, one paperclip at a time.